PHP recognize the challenges that our city is facing and deploying resources into our city. And that's another issue. If other people outside of our city are recognizing our challenges, our city leaders, the mayor, need to recognize those challenges too, and need to staff the police department in a manner that we can respond to the need of our community, versus where we continue to cut staffing. Previously, the mayor had cut 91 positions from the police department, going from 803 to 712. And now we're cutting, again, another 34 positions, going from 712 to 678. And potentially, if the sale of the Coliseum is not complete, where money is not in the city of Oakland hands, we are losing more police officers, going down to 600 police officers. There's no way that we can function this police department as 600 police officers. 25 years ago, when I came here as a young police officer, we have 750 police officers. We're working backward if we think that we can function as 600 police officers or 678 police officers in this city. The demand from our community is greater today than ever, and they want more of us out on the street. In order for our city to survive and sustain and draw businesses here, we need to have more police officers to make people feel that they can exit their home and not feel imprisoned in their own home. You have business here telling their employees, do not go out for lunch, fearing that they be victim of crime. That's an issue. We need to recognize that and address that issue, versus where the mayor would tell you, we got to work harder with less. Well, we can't respond to every call if we're trying to work harder with less. I'll let my partner cover a few other things here.
You had called on the mayor to recall. Are you calling the mayor to recall or resign?
To resign immediately. I'm sorry, I misspoke. Yeah, I respectfully ask that the mayor resign immediately today. That's the position that we stand.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here for us. To talk about what President Nguyen said, a couple additions to that too is over the weekend, crime was out of control once again in the city of Oakland. We had a total of 9 people shot in 30 hours here in the city. Early Sunday morning, about 3:30 in the morning, we had a sideshow of about 400 people at Fruitvale and MacArthur, where an additional 4 people were shot during that sideshow. This is the time where we need more police officers here in the city of Oakland and not less. We understand that part of the mayor's decision to want to sell the Coliseum is to help fund and revenue the city, but also there's no long-term fix for this. This is going to be an issue that's going to come up again later next year with budget. This is the time to invest more into the city, hire more police officers, retain the police officers, and fix the crime issue. And going forward, that's what we want to see from the next mayor and the next city administration. Thank you all.
Any questions? So why resign now? Why not just let the recall process go through and let the voters of Oakland decide?
I'm glad that you asked that question. Resign now will help us get a leader into office immediately in November election. It will also save the city millions of dollars. As she has stated, that was a waste of money. And I think that's important, that if we know that 73% of our community members are thinking that our city is heading in the wrong direction, it's time that if we're unable to lead, we need to step down and allow others to lead the city and allow us an opportunity here to save the city some money if you feel that it's unnecessary. Yes, we understand the democracy process of the recall. We truly respect that. But if we understand that, if our community feel that, 73% of our community members feel that we're heading in the wrong direction, and we haven't steered in any path, any process that getting in the right direction versus continuous distraction in the city.
So do you have a support for the police chief? This is her police chief. He's been on the job 3 months. Does he have the support of the rank and file, or are you finding that he is just as in need of going as she is?
The police chief is vetted through the community members, and we totally respect the process, and we are working diligently with the chief of police, and he is new here, and we have to give him time to work his experience into the city and allow our city to work. He haven't brought any distraction, unlike the mayor. This is a continued failure of the mayor, one thing after another.
So this whole issue of kicking the can down the road, which you put in your last release because of the budget, this is not something that Sheng Tao has all by herself. The city of Oakland's been kicking this can down the road using one-time funds to fund their budget for years, always putting staffing at risk. So what is it about her kicking the can down the road that is worse than all the previous administrations?
As a leader, you come in and you recognize a problem, find a way to solve it. Solve it with long-term strategies, not a one-time fix. I'm not going to sell my house to pay off my credit cards. That's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to recognize that, hey, what can I cut back from my spending in my household in order for me to fix the problem that I have a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Ultimately, we need a police force that help our community grow. Studies have shown that more police officers on the street do reduce crime. We want to make sure that our community member have a comfort, an ability to walk outside their home, go down to the store, go to a restaurant. People are feared to go downtown to go to a restaurant, worried that they could be a victim of robbery, fear that their car can be broken into. You look at Fairyland, they're about to go out of business because people are not even visiting no more. And you can see other businesses up and down and across our city are exiting our city because they're unable to draw a customer into their business.
No, but my point is that this budget problem you talk about has been going on for years, not just under this administration. So why this group of council? Why this mayor?
And again, for sure, it's been going for years, but it have to stop somewhere. It have to have a fix. A fix is not selling my house to pay off my credit cards.
Let's say the mayor complies and she leaves office. Is there a particular type of mayor that we're looking for?
We're looking for people that's willing to steer the ship in the right direction and help the city grow, help the city bring back businesses. We lost on last week. Basically, the A's are gone. That's a business. I don't see it as a team. I see that as a business leaving the city of Oakland. I see that as thousands of jobs that our community members need every day to depend on that to survive in the city.
Folks, you guys have acknowledged the budget issues. So this is a mid-cycle budget, which was, Mayor Tom worked with the new chief, and at the start of the process, she worked on it with Chief Ron Armstrong. So I'm assuming, the police department is involved in looking at these numbers and the budget. So one, what is your maybe response to that? Number two, if there's a budget shortfall, if it has been going on for years and decades, what are your solutions for, how is the city supposed to come up with money that it doesn't have? I mean, you're saying, don't sell your house to pay off the bills, but they're trying whatever they can.
Our solution to this is hire an expert. We've done this before. We've been down this path before in other years. Hire an expert to come in here and see the challenges our city is going through and figure out where we can cut, what we can save, and how we can maintain a police force that is make it safe for our community and member. That's what we're asking for.
But also a police force that is under federal oversight that's costing the city like $1 million a year for that as well.
I agree, but oversight is good, and I agree, but there needs to be a balance. When we recognize that oversight take up some of our resources, then we have to make sure that we fund those other spots as are needed.
And the part that the chief is involved in the budget negotiations and what the mayor puts together.
I can tell you that this is more of a cut, make a decision on what you're going to cut, than it is a work progress that your input.
So if the mayor does resign, the person who becomes mayor is the president of the council, which is Nikki Fortunato Bass, who's in charge of the budget, who has pushed this budget through, which is the same thing that you're talking about, that you don't support this one-time kicking the can down the road. She becomes mayor until there's the next election. Does that give you any cause for celebration?
No, it's not a cause for celebration. But the challenge is, if she resigned by this week, the election will take place in November, versus where waiting through the recall, then it will happen in April, and the process even drag out longer when we need to work into the new budget immediately.
You talked in the letter about the executive board voted on this to send this letter to the mayor. What's the general consensus of your members? Have you spoken to, beat officers? Is this the general consensus that police officers do not have to hear the mayor?
Our members are frustrated with the activity that's going on in the city. They fear that they are making progress. However, their constant drawback on prevent them from their ability to respond for call for service. The lack of staffing, that's the huge factor. And this right here, if you look at it, my serial number is 8290. We're up to 1,100. In between that gap, there's 3,000 people that were hired. between then. And people, the investment that this city have put in, and the people have left the city, and other city have gained from that, right? So we have to figure out how do we retain the employees that in the city and not overwork them and allow them an opportunity to see the fruit that they have put together grow, right? And that's the most important thing is like our staff are going out there every day. There's 100 and something calls standing every day. And by the time they show up, our citizens are frustrated because they're late. It's not within their control that those numbers are so high, but it's because of lack of staffing. That's why we're there. We have gone numerous days with no report status, which means we don't even respond to citizen call to make a crime report. That right there is a frustration that we need to change from our community member. We need to make sure that when they call, we show up.
And when we talk about the numbers, because the mayor has consistently said that crime is actually going down, within the letter you said some of that data isn't the reality of what's going on. Can you describe that?
Crime against a person is accurate on those number data. However, property crimes and crime reported online, we're about 4 months behind on those. So the number that they use, the huge number that decline that they show on there, that's not the correct data. You can't tell me that in a week in the city of Oakland that only 15 cars got broken into. I know that there's more than 15 cars. Officers see citizens constantly flagging them down, trying to make a report with our officer. And we also want to make sure that encourage our citizens to continue reporting. I know it's frustrating that when you call, we don't show up, but I want to make sure that we want our citizens to report those crimes so we understand the accurate statistic of it. But yes, our crimes number are not up to date when it comes to property crimes and crime reported online. We're about 4 months behind.
Wouldn't you say, I mean, from the examples that both of you gentlemen here, that crime is up, no matter what the mayor says?
Crime, I mean, we're comparing crimes this year to last year when it's through the roof, right? So, I mean, is that a success? No. We've got to compare crimes average the last 3 year, 5 year, 7 year. Where did we go wrong and what changes that causes crime to increase? We can't go back to the day saying COVID is the issue. We're 4 years past that now, into that. So we need to figure out that, hey, our prosecution process needs to progress and our response time needs to increase. We're making sure that we're out there investigating crime, but we can't investigate crime or respond to crime. We don't have the resources to do so.
Are you going to, if she does not resign, is the OPOA going to take an active role in the recall campaign?
We're going to constantly take an active role in that recall, yes. We're going to support the recall, the folks that are doing this, as we recognize that for 2 years, almost 2 years, we've been waiting and we see this ship is not steering in the right direction. The leadership in the city continue to fail again and again, and the citizens out in the street are suffering.
What do you hope the impact of your stance will be, right? Because we know the recall organizers have enough signatures, more than enough signatures for that recall. We know that the Oakland NAACP has also asked the mayor to resign, but now with the POA, with police officers saying that she should also resign, what are you hoping the weight of that will be?
We want to let the community know that we hear you and we understand your frustration. That's what we want the community to know. And we want changes. And there's an opportunity for change here in November for the mayor and for the council. There's an opportunity for change. And that's what we want the community to know, that we hear their frustration. We hear that their demands for us and the needs for us is out there. All these businesses are frustrated that their businesses are broken into numerous times in a year. Once every 5 years maybe, but to 7 times in a year, no one can survive that.
You guys are talking about the frustration in the community. What are you doing as a police officers association to sort of restructure your staffing or look at the challenges and reorganize how you guys are out there approaching crime? And are you satisfied with your solve rates?
So challenges in staffing is the huge factor, right? Solving crime, I mean, lack of staffing, that's a huge factor in our ability to solve crime. We constantly engage with the police department, the chief and his executive staff to make sure that we want to staff the patrol function to make sure that we're out there responding to call when citizens are calling, to make sure that we take the reports that when citizens, versus where we don't want citizens to call and lose faith in our ability to respond to calls. And like for an incident in West Oakland recently, It took us 3 days to finally get there for a shooting that 100 rounds was fired, right? We understand the frustration, and we want that to come to an end. We want to make sure that we have enough resources that when you call, we show up.
Right, so with that framework in mind, are you staffing extra in East Oakland, maybe on the weekends, for the sideshows, anticipating all the data that we're looking at, and using that data to kind of schedule going forward?
Whoever is going to come out in November to win council members and down the road for the mayor of this city, there's a staffing study that's coming, that's going to come out at the end of the year. And I can guarantee you that they're going to recommend that we have more than 1,000 police officers in this city. Currently, there are 35 officers patrol the beats across the city of Oakland. And with that 35 officers, we cannot sustain. We need to double that amount of officers out there to make sure that we have the adequate service to respond to our community need. Investigating a crime now, they're more into it. There's surveillance videos, there are cameras and, that our citizens have, that we have to go knock on every door and collect those data. Those, when you deal with those take time. And because it takes time, we want to make sure that we have adequate resources to respond to that.
And regarding the sideshow, our department right now is on mandatory overtime for sideshow overtime. It's a rotation, everybody has to work it, and it's mandatory over the weekends for every officer in the whole department. And we do rotate it through.
Any other questions? We will hang out in case you have any other sidebar questions. Thank you very much for coming, appreciate it. We have more water.
Did you say 35 officers on patrol or 35?
35 beats and 35 officers. So our city have 35 structure with 35 beats across the city. So there are 35 officers
You mean at any given time?
Yeah, we have
per shift. We have 3 shifts.
3 shifts.
We have-
How it was until this budget passed, and it's going to change most likely next year, but we're hoping it doesn't.
Can
We
you
have-
move over to the
Sure.
microphone? 'Cause
We-
I'm not
No
getting-
problem. We have a day watch patrol. It's 2 shifts, 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. or 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Currently, our swing shift is 2 p.m. to 2 a.m., but that's supposed to change next year and go to probably 2 p.m. to midnight. So they're going to lose the 2 hours on the back end for extra coverage. And then our night shift is 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. or 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. So part of the mayor's reduction for the cost of this is to shorten that 12-hour shift down to a 10, which takes cops off the street 2 hours early, essentially, on a shift, which provides a little bit of overlap right now.
So every
To clarify,
shift is 35 hours.
Every shift is 35 officers. Yeah.
How many of those shifts are you covering with overtime?
On the weekends, quite a few. I'm an East Oakland Patrol Sergeant. I work day watch, but I look at the staffing for swing shift, and traditionally it's 3 to 4 open beats a day. And so we have officers stay over and work when they can. But we're trying not to burn out our officers too at the same token.
So that's regularly scheduled overtime?
Yes, it is.
right,
Yes.
so 35 officers right now per shift, so that's about 105, right? 35
A-
times
a
3
day.
shifts? A day,
Yes.
okay.
One
So
officer
where-
per beat.
That's what we try to staff for. But there are days we have open beats.
But there are 600, how many police officers are there?
690 as of today.
690 is today.
We
So
have
where-
criminal
so
investigations
that's
division.
105. So where are the other 500?
Criminal Investigations Division, we have a Traffic Division, we have Internal Affairs Division. We have different units throughout the city, but this is patrol function that we're talking about. So if you call 911, we send a patrol officer.
So is it your feeling that 600 officers should be reconfigured so you have more officers on the beat? Because obviously, you know, when you get a new mayor or not, there's not a dump of money coming in tomorrow. It's probably not coming in at least for a year if they find a way to find this money, right? So are you advocating that those 690 officers should be reconfigured so there are more than 35 officers on the beat in this shift, and where should they be coming from?
Most likely the department will have to reconfigure, and that's if it goes to 600, as opposed to stays
No,
where
I
it
mean
at
now.
678.
I mean now.
Yes. At the end of the year, I'm sure they will do a shuffle, some kind of figure out how to cover what, and we might have to collapse units. We don't know. The future is unknown for us right now.
But if it stays at 695 and the deal goes through. you
There's
don't
no
have-
695, sir. 678.
678, okay. So if it stays at that, you're still at 35 for 3 shifts, right? is it your belief that that should be beefed up by reconfiguring how those 600 plus officers are assigned?
To answer your question, yes. We should figure out a way to clear the calls for service. And we're talking, President Wen said we traditionally have 150 calls standing for service. I can tell you over the weekend it was about 250 on Saturday and Sunday when I started my shift.
So where should these more patrol officers come from within the department as it stands?
Hire more.
We need to hire more cops. We need to get the staffing up to 1,000. I'm looking at the mayor's budget proposal. The biggest hit was the police department when crime's out of control. That I don't understand.
Right, what I'm saying is, nothing's gonna happen for a year, whether there's a new mayor or not, because there's not money falling out of the sky. So my point is, at the current level of police officers, do you think that things need to be reconfigured to pull people out of internal affairs and pull people out of investigation and put them on the beat so there's more than 35 officers per shift? If you guys brought it up, so.
No, I get it. I understand what you're saying. But what we're signaling to you is that the challenges that we're facing, we can't continue down this path. We can't continue down this path of this number of officers that we have in patrol. We need to start working on hiring more police officers. Every other city around us in the state of California is increasing their police staffing. You look at San Francisco, it's trying to hire 600 more police officers, and we're not want to hire any more police officers. And we want to reduce the number of officers. We have to recognize that the demand today is much different than 10 years ago, 15 years ago. What we demand of our officer, the oversight that we need of our officer, the investigation that require for internal investigation staff. It is important. We need to have staffing there for it. Criminal investigation, we need to have staffing for it. 105 officers, there's A side and there's B side, meaning officer work on the weekdays and officer work on weekends. So in order for patrol to barely survive with overtraining and sick leave and vacation and all that stuff added in, you need an average of 310 officers, just the barely minimum to run a patrol function. And then you need criminal investigation division to activate. Youth service division where they investigate sex crime. We have our K9 unit and other investigative unit within our city and our ceasefire operations.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. I wouldn't be so fatalistic, Dan. I would say that what the mayor or anybody else can do is cut city hall staff right now and put that money